this hierarchy to the way it's laid out. So you start with bigger, smaller, and then you have the image on the right-hand side, which I thought was a really interesting image. And the investigation on this was there's so much plastic in the ocean, and that we are actually eating a lot of plastic through through what we consume. So, as a poster almost, that's a really attention-grabbing image. But then also the thought process of how this person was doing research and then applying it to an image, I thought was really interesting. I know you can kind of see, again with the layout on that, it's just 2 pages, but spread over the 2 pages, you can understand very clearly this person's investigation and the kind of design they come up with.
คือดูจากการสังเกตว่าพลาสติก 70% แล้วก็ส่วนที่เป็นข้าว 30% คือแบบเอาไอเดียที่เห็นอยู่รอบตัวเนี่ยแต่เอาไปประยุกต์ใช้กับทางวิทยาศาสตร์หรือทางอะไรที่น้องเขาสังเกตเห็นนะครับ
Again, if you don't always need to draw all the walls in drawings, right? So I thought what's interesting about this one is kind of the texture, the color. It's clearly it's spatial as well, so we can understand your inner space, you understand the scale. So through this, we can understand that the student, even at this kind of application level, they're thinking architecturally, they're thinking design-wise, and they're thinking spatially. And then this kind of the skill as well of kind of using other mediums as well, so it shows us that this student can make things, and I think that's also kind of an important part of your portfolio.
อันนี้เป็นตัวอย่างปกอันนึงกันครับที่ดูจากการใช้เส้นสาย express ว่าเขามี feeling อะไรอันนี้คือที่พูดถึงว่างานมันไม่จำเป็นต้องเป็นเทรนมาเป็นต้องมีสกิลออกแบบบ้านได้แล้วจริงๆไม่ต้องมีไงครับคือมันไม่ได้เป็นเรื่องที่อินด้าบังรีควาย
จริงถ้ามาเนี่ยเรารู้สึกดันมามากไป
ครับคือเพลง
เปิดเลย
คือเอาตัวอย่างให้ดูว่าโอ้ยังไม่ได้ไปเรียนติว
เด็กยังไม่ทำไม่ได้อ่ะแล้วก็ถ้ามีนี่ส่งมาในพอร์ตเราก็เริ่มเกาหัวกันนะว่ามาได้ไงไม่ต้องดันน่ะต้องเป็นตัวคุณเนาะอาร์ตก็อาร์ตแอบสแตรกอะไรก็ได้แต่ขอให้หลากหลายสกิลดีเลือกคอนเทนต์งานอย่านาอีฟมากนะ
I think this shows the students' ability to use different mediums again. Found objects. These are nuts and bolts. You don't always need to use very specialized 3D printed things or beautiful kind of pens to be able to do something. By virtue of the things you can find around you, you can still show a lot of creativity. So we're looking for people who are kind of able to work with different mediums to explain to us how they're thinking. Again, kind of this idea of storytelling, storytelling is an important part of design. So being able to tell a story through your drawings. We don't just want to see a sketch of something, maybe it's a layer of series of things that's happening. So what's happening behind the facade of this building on the inside of it. So this is about storytelling. Again, this one is interesting in the abstraction of kind of mapping movements. So again, this idea of abstract thought coming into it, but being quite analytical about what you're showing. I quite like the graphical content of this. Again, it's very colorful. It's very clear. It's clearly laid out. And then also there's a little calendar at the bottom which tells us it's something to do with time. So already it's grabbing attention and then it prompts us to read further. I quite like this one as well because architecture and design isn't just about buildings and products. It's also about fashion. It's also about textiles. It's also about pattern. Pattern design, graphic design. All those things are really important. So what we're trying to achieve with the students once they graduate is that they're fully rounded students and very knowledgeable about design in all its aspects. Because as a designer, as an architect, you need to be able to have a lot of references that you can draw to be able to design. And this to me showed that this student is already very capable of looking at other paths of inspiration in order to design something. This one was very interesting as well. It's looking at systems, these kind of dotted systems as a way of looking at coordinates and then translating that into something that's a little bit more spatial, so into a model. And I thought the craft of this, the way that this was made, it's very difficult to make this. I wouldn't be able to make this, by the way. It's very difficult to make this. So for me to kind of see something like that already in a portfolio, that for me is already showing that it's an excellent kind of applicant.
think it's how you show the even like process of sketching before becoming from the sketching how people dance and movement. So even like some of the little bit of a skill that you have a piece that you have captures, you can also lay it out. It doesn't have to have a complete or finished or neat project, but แสดงว่าต้องการให้สื่อว่าทำอะไรมาแล้วบ้างครับ
Yeah, again, it's a little bit similar to the previous one. You know, for an applicant to already kind of show certain skills in model making is sometimes a good thing. We don't want this to be too perfect as a thing. We'd rather see the process of how you thought about something. But I thought this was an interesting one in terms of, you know, somebody who's clearly interested in architecture more than other parts of design. Again, it shows a wide variety. Some of these extracts are from one portfolio. So there was someone who's showing skill about sketching, someone who's showing skill about painting, photography, and then also something like architecture. Again, you know, this one again was very interesting in terms of the medium that they're using. It's not just sketching, but also look at the details, you know, the specific details that this person wanted us to focus on. And they've edited in such a way that there's a larger picture there, and then there's these kind of snapshots. So clearly the layout is trying to tell us that someone's asking us to look into detail. And in the first year, this year, we had the students analyze a meal, and then they had to draw a meal. This was not from that project, but this was a portfolio where the applicant kind of was clearly interested in kind of the process of making something, right? So in the top one, it's how would you make a pudding? The next one is bubble milk, you know, so that, and then specifically looking at the kind of textures of it. So clearly through photography, this person was able to explain to us their thinking and their analysis. So for me, that's kind of like showing creative thought and how they're applying that thought into kind of a portfolio. And then it becomes these type of drawings, you know. So those previous ones were the analysis ones, and then this becomes the representation of it. So they become these kind of posters which are very attention grabbing. So even if you just look at the layout and the difference between the previous image and this one, the other one was very analytical, very clean, and then this one is very expressive and beautifully kind of put together as a collage. Like we said, fashion is also design, right? So this student was making a garment, and it was very, very interesting the way that she photographed it. So it wasn't just something on a hanger. She considered, you know, where she was going to take the photograph. She had a model, or she was wearing it, and then there's these different various bits showing the action shots about how she is wearing this garment and the movement of it. So again, there's a lot of design process in this, but then the way it's explained as a story is very, very attention grabbing. This one was just someone drawing patterns of the ceiling, you know, different. You know, if you just look around you and you observe and you try and draw that, there's very creative ways of kind of representing information. So this is a very interesting one for me. Yes, I thought what's interesting about this one is that you can design through words or poetry as well, right? So sometimes in architecture or in design, we ask you guys to write something, you know? So your process of thinking can be explained as a poem, and that can be combined with something else like a drawing.
Different type of sketch.
Yes.
And also making forms, anything that they, from the drawings to maybe some of the models that the students actually have tried and then produced it, showing a different size of that project. Again, ในที่พูดถึงนะครับ is in one portfolio they have various. So she's also the applicants also doing maybe the applications of something, design something for behind the screen what happened, or in the same portfolio she looking at the recycle, anything around you, like how the recycle product can be done. So it's all about the observation, investigations, and how she gonna use all things that surrounds us, and then maybe where can we put all those put them together or something.
I think this is showing like how she very systematically. So she made a model for one of her plush toys, and showing kind of like how it was in a belly but then the way that she photographed it is very systematic. You can see the numbers on the top. She was indicating at what angles that she was taking these photographs. So even with taking photographs, you can be very systematic about how you show the project. And with this one, I think it was very interesting because in our criteria for portfolio, we actually wrote that you should not put photos from family trips abroad in the photos. But this girl, she was very thinking outside the box in the way that she was trying to show her sketching skills as well as the experience of where these sketches came from. So basically, it was photographs of her going abroad with her family from her childhood and the sketches of the places that she saw, and it becomes like a story that she tells us through these sketches. So it's not just showing your skills, but showing how you would use photographs and sketches together to tell a story. And this one I thought was very interesting because he was trying to make posters or like covers for all his favorite Beatles songs. Do you know the Beatles? พ่อแม่คงจะรู้จักกันนะคะแต่ไม่รู้น้องๆรู้จักไหมก็คือ he was interpreting the lyrics of the songs and then making posters for them. And this one is very interesting because it deals with food and how the author or the student feels about a certain type of food. Being this one, he talks about pad thai being like a very national dish for Thai people, right? Pad thai, and what constructs the pad thai, and takes it apart. And then I think there's the next one where he goes around to different places that sells pad thai and kind of deconstruct the food and เคลียร์ออกไม่ชอบกินถั่วงอกก็เคลียร์ออกมาให้ดูว่าแต่ละร้านเนี่ยใส่ถั่วงอกเยอะใส่ถั่วงอกน้อย This one, do you want to? This one, I think he was talking about life, was it? And pain, right? So how do you represent fixing things, right? Through even living things like vegetables, like organisms, right? This one, he was mapping out sound from different places that he goes to. So a shopping mall, and you see the graph there with all the sounds.
So the investigator
Yes, it's the same. He's actually in my group in second year, and he's a very good student. But maybe we can skip over this one briefly.
Yeah, the content มันคือแสดงว่าทำได้หลากหลายนะครับไม่จำเป็นต้องเป็นสกิลเรื่อง drawing หรืออะไรต่างๆสามารถแล้วก็ตั้งชื่อหรืออะไรที่ทำให้ capture อย่างอาจารย์ที่ตรวจอย่างเงี้ยครับว่าอุ๊ยเด็กคนนี้มีอะไรที่น่าสนใจแปลกไปกว่าผู้สมัครคนอื่น A lot of them is all about food.
Yes, I think it's really important. I know we're showing you a lot of examples of different things. We want to see you and your creativity in the work that you're doing. I know there's obviously a lot of lessons we can learn from these portfolios, but it's really important that we see your originality, your authenticity, in the way that you're doing the content, the layout, and your design thinking, and then obviously kind of the skills that you're displaying through it. So this is a quick kind of portfolio recap then on that. So the authenticity and the visuality and originality is very important. We want to see the various skill sets and various mediums used. That is